Courtney is not here today. She's doing business in Grand Rapids. But shout out to Courtney, always on the go, always promoting social justice. But we have our special guest with us today.
Hi, I'm Anthony Garrett. I'm a baby boomer, and I'm really curious to learn more about what it means to be a millennial. So I'm happy to be here at Ask a Millennial.
Awesome.
Hi, I'm Jubek, and I am happy to be helping out with the classmates here with the AskAMillennial project.
Basically, we are going to have a couple of questions from Anthony Garrett here, and just, to see. He's going to ask us a couple of questions about what it's like to be a part of the millennial generation, and then we're going to also ask him questions about, how his perspectives are as being a part of the baby boomer generation.
Right. So maybe you guys, thank you, Jia. Thanks for having me here.
Thanks for being here.
Yeah, normally I live in Washington, D.C., but I've been coming to Flint a lot and helping out and working with Jubek on this Double Up Food Bucks for the Fair Food Network. It's been going well, but I'm kind of curious, this may seem like an obvious question, but what does it mean to be a millennial to you guys, to you two?
Being a part of the millennial generation for me is being anybody that was born in the late 80s to probably about 2005 maybe, maybe even longer, but for me it's the late 80s, like 87 to 2005. And then from there, being a part of that generation, growing up in the new millennium. So for me, I was born in 1992, so I grew up in the late 90s, early 2000s. We didn't go to high school to 2006. So for us, this is like all we know, what we've seen in the years that we grew up. And being a millennial means many things. Some see it as being negative or positive. I look at it as kind of a realist approach. There's some positive, there's some negative, there's some good, there's some bad. We're dealing with a lot of student loan debt. The job market, in my opinion, is not as good as it could be and should be. We are a generation that was told to go to college if we wanted to be successful.
But then also, if you don't have the money or the resources, take out these loans at this interest rate.
Oh my goodness. Yes, the interest rates, you're basically going to be in student loan debt until you die, and then even after you die, it goes to your family. So it's like, what is that? Yeah.
You know what fascinates me about the millennials that's unique? Because some of these issues you're talking about, people have always been struggling with. Mm-hmm. But one thing that's absolutely unique is that you guys are what are known as digital natives, and whereas I'm known as a digital immigrant. So literally, I'm old enough that there was no such thing as a personal computer until I was 30 years old, 1982. And so, whereas you grew up with, you grew up with like these things, you grew up with these things, and it's very natural to you. But there's no such. This didn't exist for most of my life, right? And in terms of the personal computers, the idea of I want to send an email to a friend. Thank you. I want to send an email to a friend in New York City or Mexico City, or I want to do FaceTime with my buddy, or you name it, right? Or Facebook, right? And all this is unique to your generation. What do you guys think about that? I mean, of sort of living digitally, and it's so much a part of who you are. I mean, it's part of all of us now. But for, as I said, it's like digital natives versus digital immigrants.
Yeah, so the question is like what we think of.
Well, just what that means, what are the implications? Like just one more thing, Jubek and I were in the Flint Library just a few minutes ago. And there's a sign there that talks about digital literacy. Well, there's no such thing as digital literacy until relatively recently. And I would say basically, if you are doomed in the modern world if you're not digitally literate. So I mean, this kind of shift is huge.
Yeah, I think that technology is ruling everything, and for people who don't understand it or don't have access to it, it's not really like you kind of need technology in this day and age. It's something that I'm used to, so like knowing something different isn't something I can speak of or speak about. But I also think that like human interaction, not sure if it's like degrading or not doing it slow because people will just pull out their phones or like just text to be in touch with one another. So that's also the like implications, and also like little kids, like they understand how to do things on the iPad and all this, whereas the parents don't. So catching up with the digital literacy is very important.
I agree.
What do you think, Jia? What are some of your experiences in the digital world?
It's a mixture of good and bad. Like, it's good that we're able to have information at our fingertips at any given time. So in a way, it's like if a person doesn't know something, it's like slowly becoming a choice, because it's like there's Google. Like, you really don't have an excuse anymore to say you didn't know about certain things. Yeah. But then on the flip side, like Jubek brought up, I feel like human interaction is decreasing because everything is back to your cell phone. People have to depend on their cell phone. And if you don't have the money to pay high phone bills or high, internet providers, then you're going to be completely left out. So we have that issue where if someone's living in poverty, how are they going to afford a cell phone or cable or internet? And then people's communication skills are just decreased.
Yes.
Because it's like people don't know how to talk to folks anymore, because everything's on the phone. And then also another bad thing is like there's no longer business hours. People expect you to be ready to be communicate 24 hours a day, and it's like there's no downtime. So like even when I'm asleep, my phone, you hear that all night.
You gotta put the alerts off. You gotta set it off at 5 o'clock. Just turn it off. That's what I do.
I'm gonna have to start implementing that. Because I'm like, there's Amber. Oops, sorry. Shout out to Amber Hassan and the local grocer in downtown Flint. We are at Hoffman's Deli in Flint right now. But yeah,
great sandwich from us. Amazing.
Also, what fascinates me is the meaning of the word friend. Like, friend used to mean, okay, it's like I'm getting together with my buddy, we're bonding, we're talking. They say that when two human beings meet, studies show us that, or at least this is before the digital age, 80% of all communication was tacit. It's like, there's a lot that happens just on a level other than the words coming out of your mouth. Okay? It's almost like on an animal level or just a fundamental level. And now in the age of Facebook friends, where it's like I might go a year without seeing someone, like even though like all the time I'm hearing about she did this and he did that and I broke up with her and now I got a new friendship and whatever else. It's really interesting what Facebook and the digital world has done to something as fundamental as friendship.
Yeah, I agree, because it is to the point where it's like we use terms so loosely. Like, we'll say, "Oh, that's my friend. I have like 3,000 friends on Facebook."
Yeah, really.
But like you don't
that's your
know
Facebook
them.
friend. That's like your real friend. That's your like acquaintance. That's just your hi-bye buddy.
I agree. And what really cracks me up is like with Instagram or Facebook, especially with Instagram. You'll follow a person on Instagram, but then you'll see them in person and not even say hello to them. So like, what is that?
Yeah, what is that?
And that's what I mean by like, well, Jubek said it too, is like the human interactions are they're just off in a way. And like now with catfishing, you have people who are on social media lying about who they are.
What's catfishing?
So catfishing is
I'm learning here. I'm asking a millennial.
Yeah. So catfishing is a way to lure someone into an online relationship, even though you may be using someone else's pictures, somebody else's information.
Really?
Completely fabricating a life. Taking Sims, the video game, to real life. Like, people are making up people and using other people's information and pictures to put folks into a relationship that is basically based off lies and misinformation. Like, really?
This is pretty common. This is common. I never heard of this.
Sad.
Come on, I'm from a different. I'm from.
There is a TV show on MTV that actually documents people who've been catfished, and like the whole point is them showing like I met this person on Facebook or this social media site. We've been talking to each other only through the internet for years, and I'm trying to find out, is this person really who they say they are? And then they go on this wild goose chase, and then a lot of times when they actually find the person, it's not the person that they were portraying to be on that internet website.
And why do people do that?
What do you
Or
think?
what's that all about? Because
I don't do that, so I don't know. I have no way to
And that's men and women doing that?
Yes.
Really?
And a lot of time, what I think is a mixture of people having low self-esteem and like afraid that people might not find them attractive, so they have to do all this, lying.
eventually comes out.
Yeah. So I'm like, and then I'm always shocked at how someone was on a chat room for 10 years in a relationship with this person.
Without seeing it, like that's
Really?
beyond me. Like,
10 years?
Mm-hmm.
Even 10 months?
Right.
I mean, like, yeah.
That is so true, because like when I talk to my granny, her whole thing is, what happened to going out to parties and clubs and shows to meet people? Now everything is, I met so and so off of Coffee Meets Bagel, which is an online dating app. And that's another thing with the new internet. We're using apps more than we're using the actual web.
Yeah.
So like, there's an app for everything.
Yes.
If you're into deli sandwiches, there's probably an app for people that are into deli sandwiches to find out the hottest delis in the area. If you're into making smoothies, there's a fruit smoothie app. Like, they have apps for everything. And it's just crazy how like the internet has just blown up. And recently, what was it, the 25th birthday of the World Wide Web just passed a couple days ago. So, I mean, the World Wide Web is older than me, so so that's just
right.
like.
Whereas for me, as I mentioned, it's like it's like being an immigrant. I've come to this new space. So what do you think it is? I know you usually these Ask Millennials are relatively short in time.
Oh, we could go long.
Okay.
Because we want to have kind of like a casual conversation piece, like what we're doing now.
Good. What do you think millennials can teach baby boomers? It's like we were the largest generation in history in the United States, the baby boomers, maybe the world. When you add all the baby boomers across.
I think is that we need, what millennials could possibly teach is like more tolerance and inclusion, and being inclusive and less being like non-judgmental. But then I feel like both generations could teach each other that and like actually learn from each other instead of always those millennials or those baby boomers, because we're guilty of it, And then two is like
those old people are so clueless.
Right, you know what I mean? Like, we need to make sure that we're actually having these types of conversations and more people coming together instead of looking at the news and going off the stereotypes that the news is telling us about each generation too. And then like understand like we came in the world at different times, like because like a lot of people call the baby boomers entitled and people call the millennials entitled, but yet you have to look at what each generation was told, what they were indoctrinated with. Like, we were told if we went to college, we would have good jobs. We didn't make that stuff up. We didn't create the Wall Streets, and we didn't create the interest rates that were put on loans. So that's why it's like when we're saying, someone's entitled.
Back in the day, you could graduate, or you could go to just high school and buy a house for like $25,000. That does nothing for you now.
No. You could be a high school dropout and go right into Jia and have a job for 30, 40 years, retire and have a good life. Today,
you can have a PhD and work at
McDonald's, okay? And they don't want to raise minimum wage, they don't want to give people a living wage. And then going back to baby boomers, people are always talking about them being entitled because of Social Security, this, that, and the other. But once again, they were told if I work 30, 40 years, I'm going to be able to retire and I'm going to have, this amount of money to help me live for the rest of my life. So it's like, you have to look at where both are coming from. Like when you're told these things and you have a vested interest in it, you believe in it, and then it doesn't happen, you have every right to be upset. Like, you spent your whole life.
I think what you said about like open dialogue and like being actual like critical of one another, but like supporting, and also like what everything you just described is kind of like at fault of the system, like the center system at large. So instead of like vetting each other against one another, just like, oh, I see that this is your experience and this is my experience. How can we like find some common ground to like build? Because at the end of the day, we're gonna have to coexist and live together, right? And so we want to have a future that's productive for everyone. Just pointing fingers and making it's just it's a waste of energy.
It's counterproductive.
It's counterproductive.
Like, we're never gonna get
like that's
anywhere with
not
that.
you're not gonna get anywhere. So you must have like open dialogue. And, like if you have questions, people always answer those questions. You just have to talk. It's very important.
I agree.
You know, at the same time, it's, you know, I think it's, for the baby boomers, I think it is true that we felt privileged in a lot of ways, like that we were the cool generation that had rock and roll and, you know, kind of a wilder life, but not the same kind of cliches of what life was like in the 50s or something like that. And at the same time, it's a real shock, I think, now to be the elders. And so it's just, you know what I mean? But like, you know, you've gone from like, you go, as baby boomers, you go from like being hip to like, well, they're yesterday's news. And then also, I mean, I'm just saying the mentality, you know, I'm not saying everybody's like that, but you know, it's mind-blowing to think that in 2016, 3.5 million baby boomers turned 70, like the first generation of baby boomers.
And 71.
Yeah, well, that's, you know, right there. And, you know, after the war, born after the war, World War II. And then 3.5 million baby boomers turning 65. And I don't know what the numbers are for the 60, person turning 60, but the point is, you know, when you're older, you're more vulnerable. It's just, the reality is that most, you know, Bill Clinton always talks about it, is more yesterdays than tomorrows. And so, you know, that's an interesting kind of mindset.
That's a good way of putting it.
It's real. Hey, you know, it's real. You know, you can bemoan it, but, you know, it would also be ridiculous to dress like a millennial or something like that if you're a baby boomer.
That's a good way of looking at it. And I feel like I understand it. And it's weird because we always hear people say, you know, we got to invest in the children because the children are the future. But then when you look at how society really is set up, are we really investing in the children? Putting them in debt is not investing in the children, you know? And then you're complaining because like now, you know,
It's so funny. Like,
and then we always say like, you know, when I always heard, you know, when an elder passes away, you basically lose a library of knowledge. So it's like you're supposed to honor the elderly and the children, yet nobody really does that. Like not in our society, the way the systems are set up. It's like, you know, people, it's like, wow, it's like really, you look at the elderly and you look at the youth and they're like the two groups that nobody really likes. And then you have the middle-aged people who are the ones controlling everything. But then it's just weird. It's like, so nobody wants to deal with Granny and nobody wants to deal with Baby either. It's like,
I thought people love babies.
you know, I thought they did too until I started going to the daycare.
You know, like who advocates for children?
Yes.
You know, advocates
He's fighting for that person's rights,
and
you
then they don't
know.
have the voice and playing color. Oh, well, how if my mother is mistreated or if she can't get off of work, if she doesn't have a babysitter, like this, that, the third, mother or parent, whoever.
Yeah. And then, like, once again, you know, you see a lot of older people who they thought they were going to be able to retire.
Right.
And they had to go and get 2 jobs.
Right,
You know what I mean? Because their pensions have been cut.
Right.
It's just, it's insane. And then, like, every time you turn around, different politicians are coming out attacking Social Security and saying, well, we're not paying for blah, blah, blah. And then it's like, you know, once again, these people work their entire lives, you know, on this. So it's something to think about. And like I said, it's like we're so divided and conquered. Everyone's fighting against each other, yet the people who are controlling everything are not a part of either generation.
Exactly. So it's like, it's only advantageous for us to talk and like try to together, move things forward, but it's not happening.
But also, it seems to me that it'd be good to work on projects together, right?
Yes.
Because baby boomers have their kind of knowledge base, and millennials certainly have theirs. So I'm not sure what that looks like exactly, but you know, it's enjoyable for me and valuable. Jubek and I are working together on this project. You know, I bring certain skills to the table. Jubek's got a lot of determination and knowledge, and knows the turf around here in a way that I certainly don't.
Well, that has been the end of our nice conversation. Once again, thank you to our hosts and co-hosts and guests right here. Shout out to Courtney, and make sure you subscribe to her channel, Everything But Banana Pancakes. But I'm going to let you all say like your closing remarks.
Well, it was really a pleasure meeting with Jia, and I've enjoyed our conversation over the last number of months. And I'm also excited about being in Flint this weekend. You know, Jubek's going to be in the race tomorrow.
Yeah.
10 miles?
No, 5K, my first
5K.
5K.
And I'm doing the 8K fast walk. You know, the baby boomer.
At least you're out there. At least
I'm out there.
You're out there and active.
I'm going to stay active, yeah. And so anyway, I think we should keep these conversations going because they're not going away. You know, we can all pretend they're going away, but the reality is we're a huge group of people and we can make things happen.
Agreed.
I think he said everything that I'd like to say very beautifully. Again, thank you so much, Jia, for having us, and thank you for organizing this.
Yes.
Thanks, guys.
If you have any questions or concerns about the Fair Food Network, we'll leave links to their information and website in the description box below. Follow us, AskAMillennial, Facebook, Twitter, and don't forget, hashtag it up, AskAMillennial, and we're out of here.
Ask a millennial.
Yeah.